So here's something a little different. I'm doing an update to the video you're about to see. Why? Well, because there's been such a substantial amount of change. You see, last night when I recorded the video with the two gentlemen you're about to see, talking about the amount of downvotes that Snow White had, we had about 142,000 or so. Now, that was recorded in the evening just yesterday, and I actually timestamp it in the video. And here I am at 5:20 a.m. Pacific on the 4th of December with an update less than, well, approximately 12 hours from when I recorded this first one in the first place. We're talking a difference of 50,000 and 52,000 to be exact, and it's only climbing from there. I'm not sure this video or this particular trailer isn't going to get a worse score than the previous one. Interesting. Anyway, here's the video. Well, it looks like through all of the new efforts by Disney and all of the reshoots that they spent money on, in fact, we're well over $300 million now, on our way to probably $5 for the Snow White film, that it didn't really resonate with audiences. A lot of perceptions in the comments are a little bit negative, and we finally got the actual trailer on YouTube today. So let's take a look at that with some very special guests. I've got Nolan Thunder here with me today, and I have Martin Stone. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here today. I appreciate that.
Thanks for having me, Culture.
Yeah.
Always an honor.
I have a feeling like we've all seen the teaser trailer. I know that's probably true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then I have a feeling we kind of saw the leaked trailer that was in the theaters. It wasn't really leaked. They weren't going to show it on YouTube, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So today they actually dropped the trailer on YouTube on the quote unquote Disney YouTube channel, which only has like 5.9 million people on it. I was like disappointed. Disney, you do better. Okay. But we're going to take a look at, well, a story that's written about this around this, because it's really important when I take a look at what's happening with Disney right now. And I want you guys' perspective, because I don't want to go at this like I'm in my own echo chamber, because I don't really like this Zegler lady. Okay. I don't know a lot of people that do. But she has a really good voice. I can respect that, but I think maybe her personality has dimmed my view of everything, and not just the fact that they're changing the story so radically, although it is pretty radical. So let's look at this. This is a story from That Park Place, and our friend WDW Pro put this out today. It says, Rachel Zegler's Snow White trailer finally releases on YouTube. Dislikes begin to pour upon Disney. That's a pretty good title. It's also pretty strong. I know you guys have seen this, so I'm gonna get to the meat on the bone. So after nearly 2 weeks, the Disney company has finally decided to put the Snow White live-action remake trailer on YouTube. The company had kept the trailer exclusive to showings before Wicked and Moana 2, without comment as to why it was hidden away everywhere else. Guys, do we know why they were hiding this trailer?
Because it was bad?
Is that it, Martin?
A lot of people seem to have it out for this movie, so maybe they feared some backlash from the comments on YouTube.
Yeah, because I think we all remember what happened with the teaser, right? That wasn't received well. I think it had like 1.3 million downvotes. That
was staggering.
That's pretty rough. So the truth is almost certainly a very coordinated positive PR campaign to protect Moana 2 that seems to have been quite successful. I think it was. I think it was good. Moana 2 did well in theaters up until today, where it only earned about $5 million, which is pretty good on a Tuesday. But when you look at this, the preview trailer for Snow White released earlier in 2024, colossal failure is well, understatement. So Alan Bergman is the VP who oversees the film side of the company. I think he's very gifted at what he does, but I think he's been burdened by a lot of other outside forces. It was supposedly the most disliked movie previews in the history of cinema, or one of them anyway. I think you guys would agree. So it was well earned. Rachel Zegler, the star who played Snow White, has been part of controversy after controversy. Whether it has been calling the prince in the story a stalker, that was not endearing, right? And or claiming that the original Walt Disney film is dated, or weighing in on things that are happening in the Middle East. Zegler has been anything but princess-like. I think we can agree with that. And who can forget her preemptively declaring that she would not be bleaching her skin for the role?
Good for her.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for that. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with this. I just know that it didn't. She's not. She doesn't represent what is stereotypically thought of as the character, and she doesn't represent what people would consider family friendly or society friendly thought processes, or well, the ability to communicate said thought processes. So with Moana 2 releasing last week, Disney was desperate to get this new trailer out into the public sphere without significant controversy. I would say that that's accurate. I think Pro hit on the reason they did not want to pollute YouTube with a trailer that people would think negatively of while releasing a film into cinema. Can we all agree with that?
Definitely.
Yeah, I think so. We are in a weird time where releasing a trailer on the two biggest movies out at one time, people are calling that hiding it away. That's odd.
Well, you know what? That's a wonderful observation. I wouldn't have thought of it that way. So thank you, Martin. When I look at this film and the way they release the trailer, I usually you get the trailer on YouTube before you get it anywhere else. So maybe that's the perception, is they stuck it in the films instead of on YouTube. I don't know. Martin, do you think that's probably why that perception existed?
Well, I think we've had a seismic shift in the way movie advertising is done. I remember years ago when Batman movies would come out, and people would, like, in the lead up to that, people would buy tickets to whatever other movie was showing the trailer for Batman just to see the trailer, and then they might walk out of the movie.
That's actually true.
Yeah,
I do remember that. Yes, like in 1989. Okay, The Batman or Batman actually reads Batman 89, famous film. People were worried about Michael Keaton being Batman. I'm sure you remember that, Martin.
Yeah.
So
I was a wee little stone at the time, but
there you go. Nolan, you weren't even alive yet, so I know not even to ask you.
Nope, don't even try.
But what I think is interesting about that, and this is why I like doing this as multi-generational, is because I think you hit up on something. Movie advertising has shifted generationally, and it's had to, because it needs to reach the biggest possible audience. So this was a departure from what had been done previously. I think you've hit the nail on the head. Now, at the time that Pro wrote this article, this thing was headed downhill quickly as far as its perception. It had 3,500 upvotes, 4,700 upvotes. This was very early. This had released 1 hour prior to this story being put together by Pro. So we all understand that this was not headed in the right direction. We could probably agree on that.
Yeah.
Kind of like off a cliff.
Right. And again, I mean, a lot of things have changed. Some of the visuals have been improved when we got to this trailer, some of the muddy CGI and everything else. But at large, a lot of people see this as almost like, if you look at this, a very perceptible difference between things that are physical and things that are, well, imposed by a computer animated generation stuff, right?
Doesn't help when the dwarves themselves, they look like they came right off the set of the Polar Express. Like they completely clash with the rest of the movie.
Right. So we can certainly talk about the visuals of the trailer, probably things that they're going to continue to clean up, because I mean, this isn't due out until March. But I want to talk about what's happening right now. All right, this is what's happening with the trailer right now as we speak. As we record this at 6:06 Pacific time on December 3rd, this trailer has 11,000 upvotes, 104,000 downvotes. Thank you, Nolan, for the visuals. And if you take a look at this, this is only 9 hours of release. This is an extraordinary pace. Okay, first and foremost, are you surprised?
I am a bit surprised by the amount. I knew this thing was going to get slammed with dislikes the moment one on YouTube, because this film has managed to make so many upset. Man, woman, right, left, whatever. Almost the vast majority, if not just the vast majority, is mad about this movie because This is a beloved classic that many grew up on. They made memories with, their grandparents, their parents themselves, brother, sister. It's a beloved classic for a reason. And this film has its own story as a beloved memory in a lot of different households across not just America, but throughout the entire world. When Rachel Zegler dogs on this movie, she basically says your childhood sucked. So I know everyone was kind of just chomping at the bit for a chance to start dogpiling this movie. But I gotta say, I am a bit surprised that many people showed up this quickly, which is kind of terrifying if you're Disney going into the spring, because it's showing this isn't just a vocal minority. This is a bit of a mob right here.
Yeah, Martin, what's your thoughts?
I am actually a little surprised that the ratio is this bad. Watching the trailer, I didn't feel inspired to vote one way or the other. It was just sort of in the middle, and I didn't like it, but I didn't dislike it enough to express it. Right? I think maybe we're reaching a point where it's mimetically bad. It is bad is a meme, and everybody's piling on.
Actually, I like that. That's actually a pretty good way to describe this. To me, it was really easy to vote down on this because of its messaging of a cultural revolution that was pretty evident by the language that was used within the trailer. I actually know what I'm going into when I go to see this film, which I will do for the benefit of you. I'll see a movie so you don't have to. And when you look at this, I don't expect it to get better. The trailer presented the absolute best it has to offer as a film at this very moment, unless we get more reshoots, which there's rumors that potentially they may have to do, which is really tight, just like what happened with this new Captain America film that'll be releasing the month before. This is bad, but I think the fact that Disney seems to have abandoned democratic ways of thinking, American tradition, the American family. I think you're right. I think there's a mimetic component to this, but at the same time, I think that I think it speaks to a fact that people are tired of downgrading what the human experience is, what traditional values are, and just again the family. I don't know. Maybe I'm off there, Martin, but I think that might be also speaking to this.
Yeah, it's hard to separate yourself on things sometimes. Some people have spent their entire lives separating the art from the artist. That's been the clarion call that you've got to separate the art from the artist. Even if you don't like this, you've got to put up with that, right? But so maybe I'm in that mindset where I'm looking at just the trailer and I'm saying this trailer is not that bad in and of itself. But when I take into account the other things outside, yeah, it's pretty bad.
Yeah, I think the cultural issues with this film are going to create enemies. I think maybe enemies is a strong word. I hate using it, but and hate's a strong word as well. But I dislike using that word because I think what's changing here is our cultures popping back to reality, or the people who believe in common sense and in a civil society are entering the chat again. And I think that it's even stronger now because of recent events. Nolan, if you were to evaluate this film as what it kind of means inside of that cultural battleground, where would you put this? What would you say is speaking to this ratio?
So I wouldn't say that it's necessarily like a ground zero in the culture war, because I think films like, say, Ghostbusters 2016 were probably a better example, and we still hear the echoes of that film to this day in how it's impacted our whole society. As far as this film goes, I think it's really brought attention to, because it used to be very stereotypical for these companies to blame those quote unquote toxic male fans, they're ists, they're phobes, whatever thing they came up with this week to hate on people. And whatever side of the argument you are on that, I think this film, as far as the culture war sense, brings a bigger spotlight on the mother aspect, to where like the mothers, the daughters out there, because in the past, as someone who's not really big into gender roles to begin with, Snow White is something that is aimed traditionally at little girls, for your princess type movies out there, princess being saved by the prince, whether Rachel Zegler likes that or not. In the past, a lot of the battleground movies were films like, Ghostbusters, The Last Jedi, about most modern day superhero products. They were usually stuff aimed at a traditionally male audience. And I think this film is going to be very eye opening of when you have a film that dramatically changes the plot to go against the more traditional views by a lot of society, wrong or right. It's going to bring these executives and these PR teams can't use their typical, oh, we're just going to blame those toxic masculine fans out there or something like that. Because the people this movie was ideally aimed at were mothers and daughters. And, that should have been their target demographic, I would have guessed. And I don't think they can hide behind that anymore. So I think this is going to be a pivotal moment in what could even be a shift in the culture war, because I don't think this is your stereotypical bait and switch type movie.
Yeah, and again, I mean, I don't want to speak it in terms of the culture war that way, but you're right. Everything that you just said, I think you're correct. I think whether or not it's gender typical, traditionally that way. I think the bigger problem here, I think, is the political side of it all, because the language that's being used and the obviously the girl power situation that this obviously is foreshadowing is probably something that I think more people are going to be concerned with. I like I said, if this is going to be used to launch, a shift in the cultural revolution, let's say like we saw over 50 years ago in another country, I think that's going to cause a problem here in the audiences in the American culture, because a lot of people are going to stand up. So I think this film's going to be divisive. So Martin, I'm gonna get your thoughts on that. Is this film, because of its current ratio, set to be divisive already, or does it have a chance to recapture an audience?
Any movie that gets released has a chance, right? You see strange things happen at the theaters and at the box office. But if Disney wanted to be a leader in deconstructing fairy tales, particularly Snow White, they're 15 years too late. We already had Snow White and the Huntsman. We had Mirror, Mirror. Those things were not particularly successful. Huntsman was enough to get a sequel, I think, right? But this, I think it's too late to really make a dent in the culture war. I think at this point, it's just people are fed up with whatever it is that Disney's doing.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you both this question, and I kind of want to wrap it up here. Do you believe that this film will be financially successful at the box office? Which means it has to overcome some huge hurdles. I mean, the budget primarily, and the advertising budget, which is something else. Or do you think that this will be maybe the last live action film that Disney can produce, that it could say that it was going to be a surefire hit? Or do you think they'll keep leaning into live action, or do you think people are pretty much done with this idea?
I think one pivotal thing we mustn't overlook too is this film is coming out very, very close to another live action movie in Mufasa. And I gotta say, if we know Little Mermaid didn't do as big as they hoped it would. If you have, Little Mermaid, Mufasa, let's say that gets completely destroyed by Sonic 3. We don't know yet, but let's say if that happens, and if this one reflects, what we're seeing in, these YouTube ratios, it's not showing a very bright future for the company. We already know they're trying to pivot more towards, the sequel avenue with like Toy Story 5 and whatever have you. Maybe they're about at the time where they're going to abandon the live action remake strategy, because really it was kind of sort of a replacement for the original Disney Vault strategy, which was, take the film, bring it back every so years and keep re-releasing them in the theaters or on DVD, Blu-ray, and whatever have you. I don't know if we'll go full on that extreme now that we have Disney Plus, but if it doesn't keep showing to where it can provide a profit, and with those marketing budgets alone, I don't think it could be a bright future for that. But then again, we do have Lilo and Stitch coming, so I think there's just still a lot of question marks for that, but it's not looking like it's in a good direction for the company to me.
Right. Martin?
This movie is in one of those rare positions where they could have a box office number that sounds really impressive, but they still don't end up making a profit on it because they spent so much money on reshoots and, a marketing campaign for something like this has got to be 100 million more. It's
I suspect that if they're spending 300 to 400 easy $1 million on this, and consider that it was at 239 million minimum in 2023, early in 2023, according to Companies House in the UK. Ask yourself where this will end up, after a full round of reshoots this last year, and if they have to do any more. I suspect that, we'll be looking at, if this thing is going to break even at all, well over 850 million just to get to break even.
right. So if that's break even, they can still run a huge headline saying $850 million for Snow White, and everybody's going to go, wow, that's huge.
Yeah.
But then again, they've had billion-dollar live-action remakes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, for example, you can look well beyond that and just say budget plus, advertising and publicity get you, well short of your break even point, because again, theaters take half of the proceeds for the most part. Gentlemen, I want to say thank you for visiting upon this issue. We've had, obviously the idea that maybe this won't perform as well as they hope. I think this is going personally. I think this is going to be a colossal failure based on the ratio. Not to mention the fact that this particular actress has brought nothing but negative publicity to this project. And Martin, I surmise you think that this has a decent chance to get about break even or at best. That would be my guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I think break even is probably the best they can do. I don't think it's going to get there.
Yeah, I mean,
But moms and daughters going, they could drag it over the line.
They could. I want to suggest everybody check out every place my guests have been or are currently. Martin, you can often find participating in That Park Place. You can also see Nolan Thunder on many of our things, including the game stream, not only his own channels. If you guys have any interest in checking out That Game Place, do check it out in the description down below. Anything else you'd like to promote, Martin, before I wrap this up?
No, just That Park Place where I do The Lost Guys with Hangry Table and Nolan Thunder.
Which is always a lot of fun. I love those. And Nolan, of course, does in his own channel, which I think is extraordinary. So on that note, I'll just end the video saying, what do you think? Do you think this film is going to be successful? Do you think it's got a chance at breaking even? Will it make a profit? Do you think this ratio is telling? Do you think this is maybe the last gasp of a culture war that Disney wants to try to stab at? Or do you think that regardless of what happens, they'll be the last company to give in to the fact that they've lost destroying and tearing down culture in this country? Let us know in the comments section down below. And as always, be sure to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I really want you to double check. And if you're not, take advantage of the free subscription option we have here on YouTube. Hit the little red button, turn it to gray. And be sure to take care of yourself, take care of others. And until next time, see ya.